Welcome everyone to We Fix Everything. Today, we're going to be covering one of the most common issues with electric stovetops and ranges, which is these infinite switches going bad. So whether or not your stovetop is a flat top or it has the protruding coils like this one does, they both use infinite switches. So let's cover the issues and what we're looking for when we're diagnosing whether or not we have a bad infinite switch. So the infinite switches are actually behind these control knobs for your temperature control. And what happens is, even if you set the temperature to low, you will have a burning red hot coil here, and it'll seem like no matter what you do, it's always on full blast. That's scenario one. So scenario two of knowing whether or not your infinite switch is bad is going to be, even if you have all of these temperature control knobs in the off position, you will still have a red indicator light saying, hey, my stove is running. Even though none of them are actually running and hot, you'll have that red indicator light. So that's a quick way to know whether or not you have a bad infinite switch. Scenario three of knowing if you have a bad infinite switch is that you'll hear arcing or popping behind the actual control knob when you go to use it. So our bad infinite switch is right here on the front left, and I know that because we have arcing and popping when we go to use it. So this infinite switch is bad. We're gonna replace it. It's actually a super simple and safe procedure. So we'll be able to knock this out pretty quickly and get this thing back up and running safe in our home. Let's get started. We're not gonna need crazy tools to get this knocked out. You can use a Phillips head or an impact with a Phillips on it. I will use a little prying tool like a putty knife, or you could even use channel locks or pliers. It helps with getting the connections that are on the back of these infinite switches off pretty easily. Just a quick note, not all infinite switches are made equal. I've seen techs who have been in the field doing maintenance and appliance repair for years not know that there's a difference between a 6-inch burner infinite switch and an 8-inch burner infinite switch. Yes, they're different, they have different ratings, so make sure you're putting the right infinite switch to the right size burner. Now for those of you who have the flat cooktops that have these special infinite switches that let you control going from a smaller 6-inch diameter to an 8-inch diameter all on one plate. There are special infinite switches for that, so make sure you look up the model of your stovetop and you go ahead and get the right infinite switch, because that is a very different infinite switch that'll let you go from the built-in 6-inch to 8-inch all in one location off of one switch control. That's a different type of infinite switch, but the replacement is the same. So the first step is going to be for us to pull this oven out. We'll unplug it, de-energize the system. We could also flip the breaker, but really it's not required. We don't need to access the breaker to just unplug it once we slide it out. I do want to be careful whenever I go to pull this oven out to not damage the sides of these countertops. So being nice and gentle, and also lifting up the front of the oven so that I don't catch on any of the flooring. We don't want to damage this at all. So we'll make sure to lift up, slide it out, and then we'll unplug it from the back. Now that I've got this out enough to where I can get behind it, I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this bad boy. So right here in the back is our plug. Just gonna squeeze back here. There it is. Little bit of a wiggle. There we go, de-energized. So the first step, which I just turned this around, so I'll use my phone to record this. We are going to pull this bad boy off. Yep, they just pull right off, no problem. And we will take our impact here and back these two screws that are holding the front. We're gonna back out both of these screws. Now that infinite switch is just floating loose in here. So in the back here, we're actually gonna remove this entire plate. It's a bunch of screws going all the way around. We're gonna take all those screws out. They're Phillips. You could also use a Robertson bit, but a Phillips will work just fine. I'm gonna go ahead and take this plate off. I highly advise being careful This aluminum material can be sharp and will cut you quite easily, so we're just going to be nice and careful with this. Take it off and we will get started on swapping out the infinite switch. Definitely, definitely, definitely never ever open up the back of this while it's still energized. So, bunch of screws here, and we'll just pop those on the front. And let's go ahead and get this bad boy off. I like to pull from the top. Just be careful. There we go. Now we are in there. So this is the switch that was mounted with a few screws in the front, and all we have to do is get these two connections off, which I was saying this is why I use something to pry with. You can use channel locks if you want to break these loose, but once you have something to pry with, these come out super easy. There you go. Switch is off, and I mean, this thing is really burnt up in there. You can actually see the charring. Yeah, we need to go ahead and get this swapped out. So here's our new switch, and you can tell there's no charring in here at all. What you will notice is if I take my old switch, these actually have a different height on these posts. So if I was to take this and install it, that would be the height of this here. But if I just were to install this one the way that it is, that is way too high. It's going to be floating higher than all the other switches here. So I need to go ahead and fix that, which it's actually quite easy to do. First step is going to be to remove this retainer clip. It's this little black clip here that you can see. I'm going to take a little Phillips head and push at the side of the wings that are holding this retaining clip on. So I'm just going to push one side of it, and there we go. That's our clip. Now that the clip is off, I'm going to take channel locks, or I could use pliers, maybe even some needle nose would get this done. But this is actually height adjustable. There's a second place that that clip can go further down here. So I'm going to remove this top portion, just like that. I grabbed hold of it, bent it off. Now this is resized. I just need to put that clip back on, and then I'm good to go. So now that we're resized, here's our clip. I will line it up at the bottom and just put it back on like so. Clip wraps around this little perimeter here on the bottom. Now that that's back in, I'm going to push this back through, and I will take the two Phillips that I took out of the front and hand thread them in, because I don't want to cross thread it, into the front. Go ahead and tighten that down. Now that switch is nice and firmly in place. It's pretty easy to tell where these go because it's pretty much the same orientation on all the other switches. So just make sure you're lining up which one you have at the top and which one you have at the bottom. I'll go ahead and put this one on, get it all the way on, and then I'll put the top connector on. Okay, so our harness is back in. Control knob just slides right onto the front. Some switches, like this one here in my hand, this will work with this system, but you'll notice that the resting position is actually a vertical orientation. What I mean by that, I'll just go ahead and take this control knob. So the resting position, the off position, would mean that I would be mounting this switch vertically, like so. And it does have the holes necessary to do that on the switch. So these are all holes that I could mount the switch in different orientations. But the resting orientation for this switch, where it finally clicks, is like that. So this switch would get mounted vertically, unlike this switch which mounts horizontally in this system. I'm gonna go ahead and put the back plate back on. So the easy way to do this is right down here at the bottom. There is an outlet for all of these main harnesses. And we are going to actually start there, because at the bottom here, this is all going to just slide right in. This is your main focus at the bottom, and then the rest is gonna line up easily, and it's gonna rest right into here. That's where we're gonna start. The best way that I've found to knock this out, not all of this has to go back underneath, but these corners and this portion here do. So right here and this needs to go back underneath this aluminum or metal. This is another place that putty knife really can come in handy, because I can just pry up that corner and get it started. So just like that, we're in, and this is almost in the right location. So our holes are lining up now. I'm definitely going to be starting from the bottoms here and then going up. Line up the holes, but you don't have to fully lock it down. You can leave some play here when you're getting your first screws in, because we're going to walk this up. So I'm not fully tightening it down, because this is going to move a little bit for our alignment purposes. It is going to move this a little bit to the right so that my top holes are going to line up nicely. There we go. Now I'll go ahead and lock all these down. They don't need to be crazy tight. This is more of a safety cover to make sure nobody zaps themselves. And I want to make sure that the foot of this goes all the way flush to the back. So, final step is to make sure that our switch replacement is good and that it's regulating the temperature, that we don't have any risks. So, go ahead, put this on low, and I'm gonna make sure that it's giving me a low heat, and then we will crank it up and make sure that it'll give me high heat. I don't wanna hear any arcing or popping. It seems that this is regulating pretty well. I can feel the low heat. Yep. I'll go ahead and push it on over to a high heat. I don't have to sit here for too long to tell that it's kicking up to a really, really high temperature. I do hope that this video was helpful, and if it is, then don't forget to like the video, subscribe, share the content. It's greatly appreciated. We're gonna have a very diverse portfolio getting into automotive, drywall, painting, etc. We're gonna do all types of repairs here on We Fix Everything. So I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace.